Okay, this was our final performance of our whole piece together. I hadn't yet shown some of the transitions that we've done, the way we ended it, so I'm going to talk through that. I'm going to talk through about some of the changes that we've done. During rehearsals, when Alex wasn't there, I took her place in the centre. You do the duet with Hannah too, but once we'd done that, we felt like it made more sense to the piece for me to do it with Hannah too, because of the storylines. We felt like there were lots of little storylines going on, and they're interlinked throughout the whole piece, that people kept going back to each other, and it made more sense for that, for me to do it with Hannah too. So this is what we'd worked on. We use the same bass music, we use the same movements here, even though I feel like they were more fluid, they worked better. I feel like the movements were perhaps needed to be a bit faster to have a similar effect, but then Hannah worked out and slowed this part down a lot to provide a contrast. I think it worked really well in showing conflicting relationships. I feel like it's a short little introduction to everything that's going to happen. The slow, the happy, the sad, the power control of all the different contrasting pieces that we've got that happen in this one bigger piece. The whole facial expression that you can't actually see, the happy, the sad, that also provides like another layer to it that I think that you build up after you've obviously figured out the physical theatre with Frantic Assembly. Like, yeah, using the same movements as before, the same introduction, the same people, obviously keeping this beginning. I think exactly as we've built and developed this more, again, it works more effectively than our initial one right at the beginning that we improvised. Now building in, adding people, adding the relationships, everyone has come to their partners that they are with, so people that they have a connection to. We felt like there were three main storylines, three main people, so I feel like that might have been Hannah, Tu and Marlon, Maya and Bruce, and the three, so it would be Peter, Leah and Hannah, but Hannah one would be on her own quite a lot. But I feel like you can see this when watching the whole piece. You see the main couples that are quite like central and they draw your attention to them initially, and immediately you can see these three are together. You can see Maya and Bruce are strong together, not so much Hannah and Marlon, because they're not working together on this bit, but we'll lead into that slowly and they'll have a large section together. You can see that there's a lot of conflict and relationship between Hannah too and a lot of different characters. Not sure about this generational gap just yet, but I think that this works really well. The physical theatre, we're all working together in the movement together, but the way it works, it provides ways for you to look at different things. They're all working together and it's all like organised chaos. I think this is exactly what we wanted to achieve. Changing pace, positioning, and bringing back to the original set. So this is what we did in the beginning, obviously. Transitioning out of this was again gradual, like the opening. These two using push hands, the introduction of them. I was looking at Hannah as if with some intrigue because we're going to go into our next piece, and Bella walked towards Marlon. So obviously provides contrast. It's quite a sharp contrast, but I feel like when we watch the whole piece it goes well because there are a lot of sharp contrasts when time goes on. So this is bringing it back to a past era, the beginning, in a sort of storyline of generation progression. I feel like as well, not intentionally, I don't even know if we did this intentionally, but the thing that I found really effective is that Hannah and Marlon both look really sad, whereas me and Bella don't. We look quite happy, like moderately happy, so it shows how we are happier in this relationship and Marlon and Hannah are not. The thing with eye contact that we changed a lot of as well, like we were focusing on whether to look at our original partners. I feel like this fluctuated throughout the whole of this bit, but I think it was kind of worked. It didn't really need to be focused because the audience are more focusing on like the movement and the intentions of the movement, and trying to understand and unpick what the situation is here. I think it works well with all of the other people sitting around here. It's like they're watching back through almost like a separation. There's like a wall of different generations, but it's like we're all telling a story together. There, Bella looks really happy. But then it still separates into the three sort of generations. So the one generation here, another generation, and then our generation. The movements weren't as fluid as we would have liked, but I think it still worked to give the effect that we wanted. And the synchronised movements, when it worked really well, it was really effective in showing how it was like a routine ritual dance and setting the time. Here's what I talked about before when I talked about changing partners earlier. I think this worked more effectively because it was more fluid, and then breaking apart this piece by stopping too much would really take away from like the dance aspect to it. And we did speed it up a little bit in the second time, but ended up still looking at our partner instead of looking at our original partners. I think we should have still looked at our original partners more, especially Marlon and Hannah too. They look at each other then. I think that's like an interesting character. One thing I noticed here is that Hannah was a lot slower, and I think that worked really well in like their relationship, saying that this is the key relationship in our piece. I also liked how we didn't actually plan this, how the music came on at the same time as those two danced. So it was like bringing again your attention to a difference. Any difference brings your attention to these two, and how they are like the key to the old time relationship, all about like romance and how it's like supposed to be routine, done a lot more carefully, a lot more thoughtfully. And a difference as well into transitioning to our next piece is when beforehand, when Marlon just walked out, we didn't really like that very much, but we show how we bring it back to the set, so everyone runs out, Hannah runs up. It also provides contrast in speed, so we've got pace difference. We've got this freeze frame here, which is really nice. The two that have been used kind of and not been the right love, and then him chasing after the girl that he does love, girl sesh guy. And use of frantic lifts, use of the idea of flirty tango, so changing of partners. We also bring attention to the next piece straight away here with Maya in the centre. So Maya here is the next person for the next generation, so Bruce is then looking for her. He's again searching, similar to like the past generation, but it's done in a different way. So he's going through partners trying to find Maya, and Marlon before went through partners, but it was done with a different effect, in a different speed, and this was the way we transitioned to the next piece. Also using effect of like the music, I think this worked kind of good, but obviously I'm not sure how frantic it was, in terms of like it's very dancey and quite like basic, but I think because we wanted to use the idea of flirty tango, it did work in a sense, and did bring a lot of attention to Maya, which is effective in what we're trying to show. Another lift, so using 3 main lifts, and we'll use one later on as well to show how we're almost like dropping into the next piece. And obviously this is the second generation. slight music mess up there, but... And then all converging back to the set as we watch them go into their piece. I think when they did this before, they had blue lighting here, red lighting there, and just normal lighting in the centre. That worked really effectively, but obviously because of where we were at, we weren't able to do that. But I think they still provide like a sad emotion, anger, and neutral here. So I think it still worked in what they were trying to show. 3 different types of relationships, the same scenario, but how different people can affect that. The almost in canon feel that it had as well, slight variations on same movements with this different music. So I felt like, as I said before, like, you know how the change in the contrast of music was really dramatic, but I feel like this is a totally different atmosphere, total different music as well, so it doesn't really follow a routine. I think that is similar when it comes to looking at like metaphors for like relationships and what we were trying to show in like our message. This was effective in moving backwards and forwards, the movement they were doing. This moment of focus on Joel and Catherine as well, when they initially did this, there wasn't that kind of focus on them. But because this is a bit where Catherine dies, or is supposed to die, the idea of death, there is more focus brought to them too in this bit, and I think that worked well. And doing it on the floor as well, something that we learned and looked at in the workshop. I feel like the works well, but shouldn't have gone on for so long, this bit. Unless it was going to build up to something major that we could have, we should have utilised the build up more into something over here. Even though it was effective in showing the relationship over here, we should have done something at the same time to sort of help this atmosphere, almost. Or maybe not. Like, in some ways we could have added to it, but then I thought it was a lot longer than it was, so I think it was still effective. I think this was really nice, the way we moved away, we showed the 3, and then also showed off the generations, and was a good way in then doing the transition into their piece. I feel like in all the other pieces as well, we've been looking down or across, or this one we all look directly at the piece that's happening. I think this works well. It immediately gives off like a more modern feel of a generation, and it wasn't even, I think this is a really clever way of doing it with music and positioning and how the others interact with it, because it wasn't even the initial thoughts when we 3 did our pieces. So seeing it all put together like this, it works really well, and I think it was a good like final performance in that way. And then the song as well, it like brings about the idea of like, I feel like went from romance to like a certain level of intimacy in the middle generation, but like that was more about emotional, and then this is like physical intimacy. I feel like the ideas of what relationships have gone from to become in society. And all of this from like a devised piece of physical theatre, frantic assembly style, that you don't necessarily think about the intentions before. And they use the idea of like nerve pulling. I think they use pace really well as well. It's a major contrast from like the first piece, the first generation. I think it's all about contrast in you looking at frantic assembly pieces, contrast, and then how you can work it together to create one piece. Also, where they were looking, Hannah and Leah looking at each other, Peter looking straight out, the way they were positioned, so the audience would be here, so when you see the back, but they'd see where their heads were facing, it shows off different kind of intentions. Like, this synchronization was really like on point. And then the idea that this cheating had happened and these two were now, and Peter had cheated on Hannah, so like the idea that cheating is more of a thing. We use like white noise slash like muffling noises at the end. We weren't really sure what music to use. I think if we'd looked more onto it, we had more time, we would have focused on what kind of feel it would have given, but I think this was kind of effective and like what was happening in Hannah's head at the moment, I guess. Using one of the style lifts as well as before. And then having Hannah and Peter and Leah look on as before. I feel like this final frame that we created as well, just before we get into it, is really similar to the first one, so brings it back in almost a circle, but lots of different emotions are being like shown here, and I feel like we focused more on this than then in the beginning, the generations, the first generation, the second generation in the centre, and all the extras in the middle, and then the third. And that was our final performance.